The big issue that we are trying to address as guides on the side is we want to gradually transfer responsibility for their learning to the students. Let me read you a few paragraphs to get the essence of this important article in your mind. The article comes from Releasing Responsibility. It's an article by Fisher and Fry. These folks are, they put this article together for Education Leadership, a magazine published by the Association of Supervisors and Curriculum Development Specialists. There is no shortage of teachers assigning students responsibility for their own learning. Who isn't familiar with the following scenarios? In a first grade class, students independently complete practice pages from a workbook. And teacher could give fourth graders a writing prompt, and she allows them 30 minutes to respond. And students in 8th grade are told to read chapter 12 and answer the questions at the end. Yes, students in these situations are responsible for their own work, but are they really learning? Are they really responsible for their learning? Students who do well in these kind of activities are usually those who already understand the content. It's not hard to fill out a worksheet, or a shut-up sheet, as one of our colleagues calls it, when you have already mastered the information. Nor is it hard to answer end-of-chapter questions when you read well and are familiar with the genre of questions asked in textbooks. But these busy work examples are not exemplars of true independent learning, which is a major goal of education. If students are to reach the high expectations we set for them, they need to be able to marshal previously learned concepts and to apply them to achieve new understandings after they leave our schools. How can we set students on a path to true independent learning? One way is to purposefully, yet gradually, release responsibility for learning from teacher to student. To make this transfer of responsibility, we must give students supports that they can hold on to while they take the lead. Not just push them into the path and hope that they'll find the way. These supports include models of the kind of thinking they will need to do, access to academic language, peer collaboration, and guided instruction. We've found the following instructional routines work well for teachers who seek to promote lasting ownership of learning. Establishing learning objectives. Teachers must clearly establish the purpose behind any activity, including what exactly students are supposed to do successfully to perform learning tasks. A coherent objective or purpose makes it easier for learners to gain access to background knowledge that they can use to build a schema for new learning. When the objective is clear and instructional tasks align with it, students can share responsibility for learning and will be motivated to do so. When the purpose for learning is muddy, or students don't buy into it or perceive its relevance, they may complete many tasks but will have zero motivation and assume no responsibility. Students practically beg for an established purpose of their learning when they ask, "What do we gotta know? And what are we supposed to do with the information?" The learning purposes that you provide students when they ask these guidance-seeking questions should include both content and language goals. Generally, teachers post on the wall and discuss with students exactly what is to be learned and how students should demonstrate that learning through oral or written language. Content goals should come directly from the standards. For example, in a unit focused on oceans, waves, and tides, a content goal for the lesson might be to identify the phases of a moon. The focus of the language goal should reflect the student's needs. For example, a goal might focus on vocabulary. Students of all ages need to understand both specialized words, those that change meaning in different contexts, such as the word expression, and technical words, words rarely used outside of a specific discipline, such as rhombus. A vocabulary-related language goal for the study of the moon might be to use the terms full, half, quarter, and new moon to explain the phases of the moon. Alternatively, the goal might focus on language structure, such as grammar, syntax, or sentence frames. Returning to the study of the moon, a structure-related goal might be to appropriately use sequence words like first, next, then, last to explain the phases of the moon, or the goal might be based on mastering certain functions of language, such as questioning, summarizing, or persuading. A function-related language goal might be to explain how the moon, earth, and sun move through their phases. The next strategy is teacher modeling. Modeling is another crucial component of releasing responsibility. Humans are hardwired to imitate other humans. Students deserve to see an example of the kind of thinking and language a task will require before they engage in that task independently, and teachers can provide that example. Through modeling, either by thinking aloud or by showing students their written notes, teachers reveal what goes on in their minds as they solve problems, read, write, or generate ideas. Just as an aside here, I sat down with a video camera and wrote for 30 minutes. I wrote an essay. And it's pretty boring to watch, but you could see the false starts, how I was typing and then had to start again or create a outline or whatever it was. So it's a very useful exercise to sit down and actually videotape yourself doing some project, showing the errors along the way. This insight comes from Alison Gopnik, Gopnik, of University of California, Berkeley, and she's got some great stuff out there, particularly a New York Times article from 2005, January, where she basically describes the teacher as a coach. The insight being that the baseball coach doesn't sit in front of the class and draw pictures of a baseball and then talk about it for 2 weeks before he lets you handle the ball and do some more lectures before you actually go out to the field to watch it being thrown. No. The teacher as coach lets you watch him throw it and then he's going to watch you when you throw the ball. So modeling does not mean providing explanations or questioning the students. It means demonstrating the way experts think as they approach problems. Expert teachers prepare students for independent reading by focusing their modeling on comprehension, word solving, text structures, and text features. Another strategy is choosing strategies for comprehension. Good readers deploy a number of cognitive strategies as they read, such as questioning, inferring, making connections, summarizing, and predicting. The key is to know when to use each strategy and to be able to use it automatically. For example, predicting can help a reader create meaning when the author provides specific kinds of information, but it isn't a good strategy for understanding all texts. To model using this strategy well, a teacher might share his or her prediction when reading a certain text and then ask students to make predictions. Ninth grade English teacher, we observed, paused while reading the short story Kipling and I by Jesus Colon out loud and speculated why the author would describe a gilt-framed poem so early in the story. This must be an important object to the narrator, she mused. I'll need to keep reading to find out. So she stopped her reading to ask that question. Later in the same story, she reflected on the protagonist's decision to burn the poem to keep warm. I wonder if this means that the inspirational message of the poem is being destroyed too. I understand this in two ways. He feels that the poem is inside of him and he doesn't need the object anymore, or it's a dream that has died. I'm going to reread that earlier section where the character describes the poem's importance to see if I missed anything that would help me understand the deeper meaning. With enough modeling and practice, students will imitate behaviors like this and reach for appropriate strategies automatically as they read complex texts on their own. Another strategy is teaching word solving.